Because you had millions of white people watching with the equivalent of what in New York we used to refer to as the Brooklyn juries, who simply would not convict even guilty black criminals, not innocent black
Hold up, Ms. Coulter. Please stop. Please stop. If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about. At least know what you're talking about. Well, tell me how much you know about being black.
Imagine being so confident in your opinions, yet completely unprepared to face cold, hard facts. That's exactly what happened when Ann Coulter walked into The View and left Whoopi Goldberg scrambling to defend herself. Ann came armed with facts and logic, and let's just say Whoopi's usual deflections didn't quite hold up this time. Buckle up, because this is one heated debate you won't want to miss. But before we dive into the chaos, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel for more fearless takes. Did you subscribe? Great. Let's get into it. The fireworks started the moment Ann Coulter took her seat on The View. As you'd expect, she came ready to challenge the liberal rhetoric. And oh boy, did it get messy. The conversation turned heated when Ann made a bold claim that liberals have been using race to push agendas that don't actually benefit Black Americans. According to Ann, this race-baiting strategy harms the very people it claims to help. Cue Whoopi Goldberg. The moment Ann criticized liberal policies, Whoopi was quick to interrupt with her signature, "Stop. Energy." It was the classic Whoopi move. Derail the argument before it could gain momentum. Ann started strong, referencing the infamous O.J. Simpson verdict as a turning point in America's race relations. She argued that this moment signaled a shift where white guilt was no longer a factor, paving the way for policies that ultimately saved thousands of Black lives. But Whoopi wasn't having it. She interrupted, saying, "Hold up, Ann. If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about."
I need you to tell me what you're trying to say in this book, because we don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is race-mongering has been very bad for America. Liberals use it to promote causes that have nothing to do with blacks and in fact harm blacks. And that excellent lead-in you just gave about OJ, I mean, I think that was the moment, having lived near New York City in the 70s and 80s, which was the golden era. It was like Trayvon Martin and Duke lacrosse case every day. With the OJ verdict, white America said, that's it, the white guilt bank is shut down, and that ended up being the best thing that ever happened to Black America.
What are you talking about?
I meant that no longer...
Being acquitted was good for who?
Yes, because you had millions of white people watching with the equivalent of what in New York we used to refer to as the Brooklyn juries, who simply would not convict even guilty black criminals, not innocent.
Ann, cool as ever, fired back. This isn't about how Black people feel. This is about policies and their outcomes. When Republican policies were finally implemented, crime rates dropped, and Black communities were safer. That didn't sit well with Whoopi, who responded with a dismissive, "Well, tell me how much you know about being Black." Ann didn't back down. She calmly explained, "This isn't a book about Black people. It's a book about white liberals. And the data shows that their so-called compassionate policies often lead to disastrous results." But Whoopi, clearly flustered, started grasping at straws, accusing Republicans of using the Southern strategy to manipulate race for votes. Ann, with surgical precision, dismantled that argument too, citing historical evidence that Republicans were gaining support in the South long before the Civil Rights era. At this point, Whoopi resorted to her go-to tactic, turning the conversation into a debate about personal experience. "How can you talk about this when you've never been Black?" she snapped. Ann, unbothered, replied, "This isn't about personal feelings. This is about facts. And the fact is, Republican policies have saved lives in Black communities. That's what matters."
Not innocent black
Hold up, Ms.
criminals.
Coulter. Please stop. Please stop. If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about. At least know what you're talking about. Well, tell me how much you know about being Black.
Well, this isn't about
Black,
being black.
well, but you just said, you just made all these statements about how black people feel. Tell me how you know that. Yeah, you did.
This is not a book about black people. It is a book about white liberals. And I do know, and this is a fact, that once for years, Republican policies on crime and welfare, for example, were called racist. When they finally got implemented after the O.J. verdict, I might add, by Giuliani in New York, Reagan and Bush judges overall, tens of thousands of black lives were saved. That is a fact. I don't have to know about being black, but I know because you're to be dead.
Your facts are just a little shaky. I mean, you're saying that because black people, because liberals are what? Because liberals have abandoned black people now because what? I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't think liberals ever cared about black people. I mean, 5 minutes after the Civil Rights Act of '64, they start calling everything that has nothing to do with black people a civil rights issue.
Wait a second.
Abortion on demand, homeless rights.
So are you saying that liberals don't care about black people? Then are you saying Republicans embrace us in a warm, fuzzy?
Try to. We're not embraced back. But yeah, we tried
So
to.
wait a minute. So the Southern strategy was a white liberal thing? No, it was a Republican thing.
No.
And also, Newt Gingrich calls President Obama the food stamp president. That's not racist? Wait a second.
Do you really think that was? Do you believe it was racist for Newt to say that the president is a food stamp president?
Well, he wouldn't say that.
If we could just skip, I'm not a big fan of Newt, so if we could just skip that for a second and get to the Southern strategy. Because I've specifically disproved it. It's an absolutely liberal folklore. Republicans were winning the South since 1920. It was the outer states of the South. It was Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia.
Voting. What are you talking about? We weren't allowed
Who
to
was trying
vote.
to get them to vote? Republicans were.
Yeah,
and the first black congressmen were all Republicans. And the first black governor was a Republican.
You're talking about
And let's talk about the audience for a moment. You know, those folks who clap like trained seals every time Whoopi raises her voice. It's almost like they're not even listening to what's being said. Ann brought receipts, but the crowd acted as if facts were irrelevant. Every time Whoopi interrupted, the audience erupted in applause. It was as if they were cheering for the interruptions rather than the substance. By the end of the segment, it was clear that Ann had rattled Whoopi. Instead of engaging with Ann's arguments, Whoopi resorted to emotional appeals and strawman tactics. And honestly, it was a missed opportunity for a real debate. Ann came prepared with data and historical context, while Whoopi relied on the same tired rhetoric. The fallout was immediate. Social media lit up with reactions, with many praising Ann for holding her ground and exposing the flaws in Whoopi's arguments. Others criticized Whoopi for shutting down the discussion instead of addressing the points raised. This isn't just about one debate on The View. It's about how discussions on race are often derailed by emotions and personal attacks. Ann Coulter came with a clear message. Policies should be judged by their results, not their intentions. And yet, that message was drowned out by defensive posturing and a refusal to engage with the facts. So, what do you think? Was Ann Coulter right to call out the left's race-baiting tactics? Or do you think Whoopi had a point in shutting her down? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fearless commentary and in-depth discussions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.